All right, welcome. Rocking out the start of our session. All right, I'm going to switch my view around, open up my chat box, and open it up to you guys. See if you have any questions about anything so far, anything you want to get out of today, and or make sure and confirm you can hear me. That would be good. Okay, I see it A-okay over there. Let's see, share the screen. All right, how's everything going in your guys' world? We're talking about sellers today. What comes to mind when you think about sellers? What do you want to get from sellers? What do you hope that we cover today?
Just learning anything that we can to get sellers.
All right. And that we will do. We'll give you all kinds of great information today. And again, I can't stress enough that don't be nervous by the level of the content, because this is kind of a mastery level conversation. And we are going to talk about really like some real world stuff to go find sellers to make that part of your business big. So this is good stuff in today's content as well. And all right, so anybody else have anything they want to touch base on or ask questions about, or anything on any of the past sessions? Okay, I'm going to get my email in here and we will kick it off. You also have my cell phone, so if you're reviewing any of this information afterwards and you have questions about it, just pick up the phone, call me, text me. I'll call you back. I have several people that do call when they have questions or opportunities that might show up. Any of that stuff, I'm available for you guys. And so just keep in mind too, another thing to remember, so we just covered buyers and now we're covering sellers. The best thing you can do for yourself in training is repetition. Seeing and hearing this information over and over and over a few times, especially before you're actually in it and it's happening and then you're looking for it. You'll be able to anchor it better when you do it that way. But printing out the manual, skimming through the manual, seeing if there's anything that you have questions about that pop up when you're not sure what we're going to cover yet. And then when we come to the session, we go through the manual. And then what you do is you go back through the manual one more time right after the session. Just skim back through. It's 15 minutes maybe. Skim back through what your notes you took, your asterisks, where did they fit in the book, in the manual. And that's when you kind of start tying it and anchoring everything so that it's there when you need it, when that opportunity shows up for a seller or whatever it might be. So do that. And then, we're going to jump into it. Get this going. All right. So in Ignite, we cover 18 sessions. So you got 18 hours invested in your career when you get through Ignite the first time. You might even want to plan on just taking it over and over and over again. Anybody in here for the second or third or fourth, or just type in how many times you've been through Ignite so far, and we'll just see who's been in the longest. Type in the chat box. That way, you got the chat box there if you need anything as well. If it's your first time, that's fine. If you haven't even been through the whole thing yet, that's fine. All right, cool. So this is something that we just continually, it's like an ongoing thing. And this is probably like the 6th or 7th time we've run it. So we ran it all last year and we're already into a second time this year. And I'm telling you the repetition, I've had several people that have gone through 4 times. And that is where they really start having it sink in, and they're hearing it for a second, a third, and a fourth time, especially spread out over the year, because not every situation is going to come up. I don't know that I wouldn't say that I use rare stories that you won't see happen often. It's the stuff that shows up the most and how to capitalize on it when those opportunities show up. So we will be running that now. They actually did just completely rewrite Ignite. So there's a new one being launched in the next couple of weeks, and it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. And we'll still be able to probably blend these stories in the way I teach it with that new stuff. There's going to be some more videos and some other things to really keep you plugged in. So I'm anxious to see how that one turns out. So in this, though, we talk about growing your business and running your business. Growing your business is Spark. We got 2 more sessions on that. So today is the sellers. We did the buyers on Monday, and on Friday, we're going to do kind of the day in the life of a realtor, of a successful real estate agent, and what they do with all this stuff that we brought to the table so far. Then we're going to get into running the business and actually getting some more, even more of the same content again. So you'll hear a little bit of repetition, but it's really putting it to play. So obviously today's about lead generating for sellers. Okay, so on this one, understanding motivation, finding sellers, we're going to cover stuff from understanding motivation, qualifying the lead, pre-qualifying the sellers, pre-listing questionnaire, what you want to have before you go to the house for the listing appointment. And then we'll talk about those daily success habits too, which is building your database every day. That's in the back of the book. That's what you basically take back out of the 1-hour session here and go through the back and look at the scripts and practice the scripts and grab somebody to do with them and do some of the exercises in there. So that will anchor down what you're getting out of this information today. So on this one, do not call list. We always talk about that, but here's where I just want to remind you to clean up your database. And when we talk about the do not call list, this is the least thing you have to worry about when you're calling your master list. If you've gone through your Facebook friends and you've gone through your cell phone and you pulled up contact records and you just get all that written down into your notebook. And I'm going to reiterate this one more time, because as I help people go through this and we're working through it, here's what happens. You start writing down the first name out of your phone, and then you're looking at the contact record to get the phone number, and you're writing it down. Then you're scrolling to see if there's an address, and you're doing that. Or if you're going through Facebook, what most people typically do is they click on the person, they pull up their friends list. Then they click on the person and click on profile and go see if they have a phone number listed, go see if they have an address. That's not what you want to do. So if you've been building your list like that and you feel like it's taking forever, anybody feel like well, let me ask, how many people are building their lists? This is critical in a notebook. How many of you feel like it might be taking a little longer than you wanted? It's because you're digging around for that phone number and address while you're adding them to the list. Now, if you just wrote the name down, take 20 minutes, like today you could do this right after this session. Go through Facebook again and just write down the name. Don't look for any other information yet. Go through your contact record, even though their phone number and stuff is sitting right there most of the time, just write down the name. And sometimes they don't have a name, so you're just going to write down the phone number, right? So that's just a phone number in your phone. And just go through and get it out of your contact list onto the notebook. Get your Facebook friends out of there, because then you can go back 1 hour a day and just go through and pull the person up on Facebook and see if they've got a phone number. Go into tax records and see if you have an address. Pull up your phone. I mean, basically you got Facebook and then your phone are the first 2 things. Second thing is tax records. And then third thing would be fastpeoplesearch.com or whatever. So by the time I go to Facebook and my cell phone, and I pulled either a phone number or an address or an email, because in your contacts records, at least on Apple phones, iPhones, you're going to, sometimes they dump in addresses and they dump in email addresses and they dump in a picture of them. So it does, well, both phones do it. They'll find some information. So that's what you're going to put down, what you can in the master book. Then you're going to go to the tax records. And if there was an address written down, you're checking to see that, check that address and go to the tax records. And if they're listed on the tax record, then bingo, you got it. If you can't find them, then that address may or may not be old. And that's where I throw up fastpeoplesearch.com, which I'll throw back in the thing so you guys have it. And if this does come up as a web link, fastpeoplesearch.com, if that does come up as a web link, you can click it and or copy and paste that and open it up in a tab. So that's kind of the process. It's Facebook, cell phone, tax records, fastpeoplesearch.com. And fastpeoplesearch.com will be accurate maybe 70% of the time. Tax records, if they're listed on the tax record and there's no past history under that address on MLS, that's probably the most accurate. And then your cell phone, if you know you've talked to them, that's pretty accurate. So you got their cell phone. So you can take that cell phone number and do a reverse phone search in fastpeoplesearch.com. So the point here is on the do not call list, when you take those two lists and you get them in your notebook and you just start working on that every day, and you want to have 20, 30, you want to have 20 phone numbers and addresses in there probably right now if you've started your notebook in the past. And then every week you almost want it to be around 40 to 50 to 100. Like you're finding addresses and phone numbers way ahead of your 5 a day. That way, when you get really busy, you don't want to just find 5 and then make your 5 calls and write your 5 notes. And then tomorrow go find 5, do your 5. You want to just for an hour for about the next 3 to 6 months, you're spending an hour every day just filling in everything you can. And that will give you a list to pull from forever, no matter how busy you get, no matter when life tries to knock you off track by getting sick or kids getting sick, or God forbid you have to go to a funeral and fly out of town and all that other stuff. If you have that master list sitting there, it's always there for you to step right back into your business and make 5 calls, dial until you get 5 people on the phone and write 5 notes, and you're right back in. And when you do that consistently, persistently, that's where you start building up to 1,200 people a year. So on the do not call list, you're not going to have to, I don't worry about a do not call list. And I'm not saying you shouldn't worry about it, but see, I only talk to people I know. I only call people that will never find me for calling them off the do not call list. I have an endless number of people, and I've been doing this for 30 years. And there's a lot of people that are not on drip plans in my database yet. And there's thousands in there on drip plans. So once that first call goes in and that handwritten note goes in, and you weren't even talking about real estate, it's kind of hard to say, take me off your call list. Now, if you find yourself with anybody that says, how'd you get my number or take me off your list, then you're really not calling your sphere people. And that's going to be a hard way to start a connection call and then write a handwritten note to a total stranger, unless I can connect on the phone. Internet leads are a different story. When those come in, they're asking for information about a property. I can get them to talk about themselves and we connect through that. And then I've got a connection with a total stranger and I can write them a handwritten note. But see, I didn't call them out of the blue. Now, if I do, I'm still, if I call people out of the blue and I'm cold calling for sell by owners and expireds, looking for sellers that we're going to talk about today, I'm going to connect somehow. And it's probably not me personally. It's not going to start with, hey, I saw you didn't sell your house, or hey, you're trying to sell your house yourself. I'm going to call and say, hey, congratulations for being in the real estate world. And they're going to say, what? It's like, oh, I saw you were selling your house. How's it going so far? How you doing? And find out what their challenges are. What have you been doing for marketing? I'm a real estate agent in the area, Keller Williams, Brad Korn, I can say all that and say, I help everybody sell houses around here. I saw that you were selling your house yourself and just thought I'd call and see how it was going for you. And if there's anything I could do to help you. That's how I'm starting the conversation, because if I provide enough value over the next 4 weeks, then I'm going to earn that listing. Now, I can go in the other way and say, this is Brad Korn with Keller Williams. When you're going to choose to hire the right agent, and I can start right there, but I'm going to call 100 for sale by owners to get one to say, yeah, I'm tired of it. So in my world, I'd rather earn the relationship. And if I miss this sale or they actually sell the house themselves, it doesn't cost me anything, but I'm going to be in touch with them from this day forward forever. And I'll get the next sale and the sale after that and the sale after that, plus a couple of referrals along the way. Does that make sense? So in the do not call list, you do have to pay attention to that when you're calling strangers all the time. When you work on your database and make your master list, you don't have to do that anymore. All right, so let's talk about just in detail, and you guys can jump in anytime if you have a question about any of that stuff, because I know there's something that usually is creeping in. Well, how do you do it when you're calling this person or that person? Or I mean, I've had it even come up where, well, what if you're calling somebody from high school that you haven't talked to in 20 years? It's the same as anybody else. You have to reconnect. Hey, I apologize for not calling and keeping in touch since high school. I was calling to see how the heck you're doing. I've lost track of how many people have left us now, and how many people are still around here, how many people moved all around the country, and kind of felt lost. So I just figured I'd pick up the phone and call you and see how you're doing today. So you can see that they are probably going to buy and sell. They're absolutely moving. Now I've got to find out, so where you've been, what are you doing? Oh, you own your house, and those things come up in the conversation. So the own the house is looking to see if they're a potential seller. Also, where you live and still around here, how long you've been there is going to tell me if they've been there 5 to 10 years, if they're thinking about possibly moving. So in general conversation, I am finding out, I'm pre-qualifying them, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, to see if they've been in their house for 10 years. There's lots of stuff to fix around the house. They actually own their house. We would love to move to the other side of town. Right there, I've got everything I need for a seller and a buyer, and I just qualified them. So now I'm going to move that conversation wherever it goes from there, whether it's that phone call or another one or whatever. I now have them tagged as a prospect. So it's just kind of, I probably make it sound too easy, don't I? I mean, it's just casual conversation, but yet it's layered very on purpose with real estate in there, but not using real estate scripts. So that'll just take you being comfortable with the people that you're calling on the list. All right, so here's some of the seller leads that you can find. You got your database. Okay, we've already talked about that. And remember, we talked about showing that there were 100 people, 30% of them probably won't move. And of those 70%, only 6 or 7 were probably moving anytime in the near future, which would be the next month to 2 or 3 months. So that graphic that we had in, I don't remember which one, with your database, I think it was Spark number 3 or 4. So we talked about how that boils down. But your daily 10-4, I mean, going and viewing 10 houses, making 10 phone calls, and doing that stuff. So that is in every single manual, that if you're working on that 10-4 every day while you're going through Ignite, even if you worked on it the 3 days we do Ignite, right after this class, you go through and do your 10-4. It has it right there. It says to go view 10 houses, make 10 phone calls. It gives you the assignments to do. That is the most critical thing that you could do every single day if you really want to jumpstart your business and get a listing appointment and get a buyer to go look at houses, is do the assignments that are in Ignite. This ignites your business versus just, yes, information is power, but action is more power. Action turns into money, implementing and taking action. But doing open houses, we're talking about sellers, right? So you're mostly going to have buyers coming through open houses. However, statistically speaking, National Association of Realtors says 3 buyers out of every 4 buyers will have a house to sell. They'll own their house. It's like 70% of buyers own a house. That's why they're turning into a buyer. So they're obviously going to go through an open house if they're starting to think about it, or they were just driving by. It's like, oh, an open house. And they're going to stumble in there, where if you can connect, knowing they're probably not selling right now, knowing that they're probably not going to buy that open house now, and be at a comfort conversation level that you can connect with them, then you can ask those questions. Oh, so do you own your home? Do you have to sell a home no, we don't own, or yeah, we do own. And oh, cool. How long have you been there? And I'm finding out, I'm just qualifying them through the conversations that line up with all those things that we talked about. So I will tell you that when I started in real estate, I probably was absolutely, I know I was absolutely no different than you. However, I'm going to throw on the table, I had a worse chance of surviving in real estate than you did. You do right now, because I was not from the area that I was in. And I knew no one. I was a transplant from Kansas City from actually Wichita, Kansas, to Twin Cities, Minneapolis. Never lived there in my life, knew nobody, thought I'd get into real estate. So I literally did open houses on Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, 3 days a week. I worked hard. Like I put those open house signs up and I sat in there, I collected names and addresses and wrote a lot of notes and did all that stuff and built my database there in Minneapolis from that. But we moved after 3 years. So I definitely wasn't doing 5 a day. I'd never heard that concept before. I wasn't doing that. I was doing the, copying and pasting brochures and mailing things out to neighborhoods. And we did not have the data we have on the databases now. We barely even had databases. I had to actually create the database I had. It was kind of like out of a spreadsheet, but it was actually called a database. It was called ACT, A-C-T. And I had to create all the fields to track, their spouse's name and their address and all that. When you think of tags in Command today, I had to create fields for all that. I basically created the database that we know today that kind of looks like Command, all those fields that you track. I had created that because I needed a way to keep track of it. So anyway, after the 3 years when I got in and this tracking started coming around, and once I heard the 5 a day just feed, I'm like, I could do that. I mean, I'm talking to 5 people a day. I just got to turn my radar on to make sure I get them in my notebook and then find their information and then connect with them, right? So I just made it on purpose to connect with people every single day, capture them and put them on a drip plan. And the last one here, referrals. So the thing about with referrals too, guys, is there's everybody out there selling all kinds of programs. There's even entire programs that they tout. You want like 98, 99% referrals. Well, the thing is and I've said this before, when you get a seller listing, which we're talking about today, and you put a sign in the yard and you say you're 99% referral based, that means that anybody who calls on your sign that could be a new potential buyer for you, you're not doing anything with them, or you're not getting them and you're not doing anything. You're saying that with the internet today, the way it captures buyers' information, them putting in their name and their email and inquiring about a house, that you're just ignoring all those. And like Gary will tell you too, is like, if you are 99% referral, then you can only have so much business that's going to circulate through that group. And you're going to have to make that big number big enough to support your lifestyle. The other thing is that when they said 98% referral, one of the other things, well, let me preface this by saying one of the things that I do is my real estate business is a laboratory. When we have these classes and we talk about this stuff, I take this stuff back to my real estate business and I apply it. I actually I've implemented probably everything, just about everything I've ever heard in any kind of session anywhere that sounded worthwhile. And what I did when I implemented, I figured out what worked and I figured out what didn't work. And I'm not saying that these programs are not being truthful, but when they say to get 50% of your active clients to give you a referral before you sell a house, it's freaking impossible. That means if I'm selling 50 homes a year, that I probably had about 75 clients, which means I should have gotten about 30 to 35 referrals. I'm not getting 35 referrals from my current clients. I get probably a dozen referrals from clients every year, right? And so you just gotta pay attention to that database, stay in touch with them, and then be on purpose. Like if you want to make referrals your business, then you're gonna have to kick up your message to be all about referrals, and everything's in there layering and asking for referrals all the time. And you can probably get there, but it was not easy. I mean, I get a lot of referrals. I've got over 6,000 real estate agents in my database. That equates to about 2 referrals a month, every month for as long as I can remember. So that equates to 24 sales, but it's 6,000 people to get 2 a month, right? Staying in touch with 6,000 agents, or I'm probably even more than that now, probably around 8,000. Keeping in touch with those people to be top of mind when they think of Kansas City and you get the referral. And if you don't stay in touch with it, those kind of drop down a little bit, right? So let's talk about qualifying the leads. Well, actually, before I go there, because this session is about finding sellers. Any questions about finding sellers through open houses, your database, any of that kind of stuff. Where else can you guys find seller leads, or where are you looking for seller leads, or are you looking for them yet? Does anybody have any comments or questions or anything you want to add? Is it maybe good? Go ahead. Do we have a question? No. Is it maybe good that we're sitting here right now having this conversation to say, do you think about sellers every single day, and do you go look for sellers every single day? Are you on purpose about finding sellers every day? Guys, grab a piece of paper and write on there real big, find a seller today. And I want you to tape it up in front of your computer or on your wall or in front of your desk, because that is what we have to do as a real estate agent. Don't worry about if you want your business to be big, not big. If you don't want to have a team, do you want to have a team? None of that matters. Until you find a seller a day, every day, just anybody. I didn't say find a listing. I said find somebody that owns a home that might sell. That's what a seller is, right? If you just talk to people every day and find out if they own a home or they've thought about selling. If anybody's thinking about selling, that counts. Ding, there's my tally for the day. I got my one done for the day. I didn't ever say go get one listing appointment a day. We're not there yet, right? But when you do build your list big enough, you will finally have that kicking back out to you. So find a seller today. Anybody who owns a home that would love to talk about their house. You're not getting a listing appointment. You're just finding out if they own their house. It's like, so here, let me give you guys a conversation. So let's just say I do this. Okay, I'm gonna find a seller today. It's like, so do you own your house? It's like, yeah. Well, do you love your neighborhood? Yeah, I kind of love my neighborhood. Have you been curious what the values have been doing in your neighborhood? Yeah, I've been very curious. You know, I can pull up on our computer system and tell you exactly what sold in your neighborhood over the last 12 months. It's like, oh yeah, that might be kind of cool. Well, guess what? You just save a search for them under their neighborhood, and actually in Command, it's an automated feature in there where you plug in their subdivision and it will automatically send them the information anytime somebody comes on the market, goes under contract, sells. So you're just plugging them into becoming specialist or information. You're the information source for their neighborhood. That right there, if you did that every day and just put one person on a neighborhood search, you are going to blow your business up in about 12 months. You're not even going to know what hit you. You're going to be an overnight success. So start with your friends list. Guys, I do this all the time. It's like, hey, I'm not sending you stuff on your neighborhood. I need to get you set up so where you can see what's selling in your neighborhood. Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. It's free. I mean, I'm not even asking for a listing appointment. I'm just going to set them up on a search. So find a seller today, and in fact, just find somebody you can set up on a neighborhood search today that owns their house, right? Make that even easier. I was trying to see if there was anything else. I think we've already kind of talked about if you want to get on purpose and you really need to get a sale in the hopper, and by next month, you really need another sale in the hopper. And the month after that, you probably need 2 sales in the hopper. I mean, if you just need to get something going and you need to talk to somebody that you have the best advantage to possibly get a listing appointment, which, by the way, if that happened right now today, if you guys are sitting here looking at me right now and you just had a conversation with me, I said, I think I would like to meet and see what you do to market homes and see what my value would be. Well, now what do you do? Right? What do I take with me? What am I supposed to get? Just say, great, I would love to do that, because all you have to do is print out the neighborhood printout. If you can do that on MLS, type in their subdivision name and print out the list from MLS, that's all you really need. And then get off the phone and schedule the appointment and say, I will absolutely do that. And then you can run around the office like a chicken with your head cut off and find somebody who goes, what do I take with me? What do I take with me? But you could take just that and sit down and have a conversation with them around what's selling in the neighborhood. You could fake it, really, because then you could just talk about, so what made you say that you wanted to know what the value of the home? Are you thinking about selling? And let them talk. And the more they talk and the less you talk, see, that little scenario right there is what you're going to have more often when you follow that find a seller today. If you did that every day and you just found a seller and you got somebody say, yeah, I'll check out your market, your CMA formula and find out what the value of my house is. I'm not going there to win the listing necessarily. I'm going there to have a conversation with them. I print out their neighborhood sales, and then I say, what are you thinking? And just learn from it. And as you go on 2 and 3 and 4 of these over the next week or two, you're going to start figuring out what you need to take with you by the questions they're asking, what they're looking for. And while you're at the appointment, if they say, well, what are the 4-bedroom, 2-story selling for in the area? Say, that's a great question. I brought your neighborhood to find out kind of what your motivation is and how soon you want to move and where you want to go. Now that I've seen your house, I'm going to go pull up some more detailed information, and I'll give you a call tomorrow or later today or whatever, and I'll run back over with that later. You can go back again. You don't have to go there to get the listing appointment right that second. And if they are ready to sell and you let them talk enough, that you might walk out with the listing appointment. So finding homes that sold 5 to 10 years ago, anywhere in the area that's close to where you live, so you're not driving far away, but just do like a 5 or 10 mile radius on MLS around where you live. Pull up solds from 5 to 10 years ago. Pull up expired listings from 3 to 5 years ago. And in both of those lists, you're just going to click on the MLS number, whether you have to do it where you have to go to the tax record to look at history. Our MLS has a history tab built into it, and I can go see if they've sold the property since then. And if they sold it in the last 2 or 3 years, I'm just taking that one off the list. I draw a line through it, and I go to the next property, and I go to the next property. And you're going to end up with 5 or 10 people that have been in their house for 5 to 10 years or longer, and they live within 5 to 10 miles where you currently live. Guys, let's stop. Listen to this. If you just did that every day and expanded that out, and you just leave your house and go knock on those 5 doors. I mean, if I was going to door knock, that's who I'm door knocking. I'm not going to door knock the neighborhood. I'm going to those 5 houses, and I will pick the houses that are in this quartile of my circle for today, this quartile of my circle for tomorrow, this quartile the next day, this quartile the next day. I got a week's worth of appointments, and I'm playing real estate really well. I'm talking to sellers that might be thinking of moving. So just understand that 5 to 10 years ago doesn't mean they're moving. It does mean that they're starting to think about it. And now if you follow up with a handwritten note, that's simple. Once I have a 2-way conversation, I follow up with a note, right? Follow up with a handwritten note, you're going to double or triple the amount of activity that you're getting. So if you really want to find sellers, you've got to get in front of them. And I just gave you several ways. Anybody have any questions or any other ways that you're thinking about finding sellers? Okay, so here's just some questions. These are in your book. You know, you can get some connecting questions. Getting details to add to your database. If you would, please tell me a little bit about your family, job, life. Now, that sounds a little formal, but I'd be like, so how's your family doing? How's work going? Things going good? That would be with somebody that I know, right? Assess their wants and needs. So anywhere in that conversation, it's like, I'd probably consider moving, but the prices are just out of control. Well, what would you be looking for, right? And what do you want to do? If you found one that was priced right, what would you do? I mean, I'm just asking questions, right? Pinpoint their location. Where would you like to buy? So if you found a house that wasn't grossly overpriced, doesn't mean you're going to. I'm just asking questions to find out where would they like to buy? Where would that home be located, right? Determine their motivation. Why would you move in the first place? Well, we've just been here too long, and it's starting to turn over, and there's a lot of littler kids in the neighborhood, and our kids have moved out now. Okay, so I'm absorbing so much information. When would you like to do this? And again, another way to ask that is, so if everything was perfect, if you had somebody knock on your door and offer you more than you ever thought for your house, notice how I'm not saying a price, but more than you ever thought for your house, and you could move, where would you move to, and why would you move there? What would be important about that move? Those are all kind of bold questions. And again, I kind of throw those out there and make it sound pretty easy, but I've been through bold like 12 times. So I hear those scripts, the red wagon script. What do you love about your neighborhood? Yeah, those kind of things that are all in bold. So the more training you go to and do it repetitively, those things will start sinking in and you could just have casual conversations. So just, I guess if I were to put a filter on everything for you guys today, I know that you're anxious to get a listing and you're anxious to get a buyer. Just don't show it, right? I mean, the moment you cross paths with that person, the fact that you don't have a ton of business, most of you are new on here. I saw a lot of first time through Ignite stuff. So I'm assuming I don't have any big monster teams on here or somebody selling 70, 80 homes a year. And if you are here, still, a lot of times we don't even do these things when we're really doing well. We don't do the stuff that got us there, right? Because that you're just having that conversation. Just remember that you are probably the best person to look out for their best interest because you have time right now if you're new. And if you do sell quite a few houses, then you have the experience that 80 or 90% of the agents out there don't have. So either way, you are the best person to help them right now. Really look out for their best interests and work hard for them. So you want to have conversations around knowing that if you push it too fast and they say, all right, I'll get back to you and ignore you, then you just threw them back out to the wolves. So just have casual conversations, even though you need that next sale, you want that next listing, just remember, okay, I'm the best one to help them. I'm going to look out for their best interest. So listen to what they're wanting and what they're needing. And if they don't know what they want or need, then you're going to direct some of that conversation too, which is, it's like, well, I don't know where we would move. So would you stay around here or would you move away? Well, nah, my doctor's close by and things. Okay, so if you found a great deal right around here, but you could upgrade your house, I mean, is that something that you would consider doing? Oh, I'd probably do that in a heartbeat. Great. Why is that important to do that? Well, there's a lot of stuff to fix around here. See, I just controlled that conversation and I'm finding information out that's coming to the surface. And that's where you're gonna have to get once you connect with somebody. All right, I know we're getting deep in this. Any questions, any comments? All right, so here's another thing. They talk about categorizing your sellers. Honestly, every seller you talk to right now for the next 3 months, what letter would you give that seller in your book? They're an A. You don't have enough to get a B and a C yet, right? They are your life. They are the seller. You're going to stay in touch with them. You're going to create a relationship. But as what we call an A, B, and C buyer is an A is ready to do something now. And or they're already packing up and they've already found some interest in some house. They're getting pre-approved. I mean, they're moving. They're taking action, right? A B is somebody that's like, yeah, I mean, we're kind of thinking about doing it. We are starting the process but they haven't started packing yet. You're talking probably 15 to 60 days out. You're going to put them on a plan in your database where you're going to call them, maybe every 2 weeks or so, just to keep in touch. And keep in mind that these different sellers, they're smart plans. You're going to have a seller follow-up smart plan, and one's going to be a call every 2 or 3 days. One's going to be a call every 2 weeks. And then if they're C, which is probably going to be 98% of them, they are going to go on the C plan. I just put them on an 8x8. I mean, I call them again in 4 weeks. I call them again in 8 weeks, and I call them 4 times a year after that until they buy. And send some collateral in between to just stay in front of them. It doesn't have to all be about real estate. But in your A buyers, you might be figuring out where they are in the process. And I mean, you could be doing a pre-inspection, you could be staging, you could be, talking about how to prepare your house for photos, all that kind of stuff. And the B buyer, again, same thing. You could really send them probably the same stuff, just spread out over a little bit more time, right? So just think about what is the smart plan that you need to have in your database that if you meet one of these sellers today, where are you going to put them? Are you going to write them in your notebook, that name in your notebook, right? And then if they're a seller and you met them and you already had their address and phone number and you've connected, then you probably step number 2, written them a note to follow up that first appointment, which means now you're putting them in command And then what are you going to do to follow up to make sure you don't lose touch with them? And if you don't have those SMART plans in place, then they will just fade away. Guys, I've got a new person on my team. I've gone through this stuff with them, and I've said, all right, I know you've talked to probably a couple dozen buyers in the last week and a half, and you have no plans running on anybody. You've got notes on pieces of paper on your desk, and you should be closing some deals by now. He's like, I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. It's like you didn't put them into the system. You didn't put them into the database, write the note, and then we start the follow-up plan. So now he's at the point where he's getting the notes in, getting them updated, and writing the handwritten note. So now he's got on-purpose calls coming back out of our system, which are SMART plans that are running just to tell him to call them back 3 weeks from now, or 4 weeks from now, and 8 weeks from now is our plan. But just to remember to call them back later. Otherwise, his pile of paper with all the notes, there is no way he would know who he talked to last and all that. And that's in my system. But he's new and he's figuring out, okay, when Brad says he has systems, he really has systems. He's not just throwing me out here to figure it out. So I said, just trust the system, man. Don't try to do it. He wants spreadsheets and all this stuff. I'm like, quit. You're just on the phone talking to people, put them in this link right here and do what I tell you to do after that. Not what I tell him to do, but what the system tells him to do, right? It's SMART plans are amazing and they will transform your life. Now I really got to pause for a second. Somebody's got to have a question after I talked about that. Somebody has to be curious about something. I'm making this sound way too easy. No? All right, how do you guys feel about if you were to, and you can put this in the chat, just on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being absolutely horrible, and I probably shouldn't be in real estate, 10 being I'm getting every single person I come in contact with in my notebook. I'm finding addresses, I'm finding phone numbers, I'm calling people every single day, and I'm feeding my database every day. Where are you on that scale? Yeah, and I love that Elizabetta said it's not easy, but it's doable. Guys, it's not easy, it's simple. And here's the best part. In real estate, you have an unlimited income potential. You can have 10 sellers working with you this month if you want. Now, there's nothing easy about that, but it's really simple. You find 10 people that want to sell and you're talking to them face to face and staying in touch with them. You will get 10 sellers. Now, to find 10 people that are ready to sell, you might have to talk to 1,000 people. That's definitely not easy, and that's not simple either. However, you can do as much as you want in this business. You can make as much as you want in this business. And I pray it's never easy to do, because the second it's easy to do, then everybody can do it. Does that make sense? So all we're talking about is it's simple and it's about doing it every single day. I mean, I hope you guys all put a piece of paper in front of you that says find a seller today, and that you actually do that, right? And that you'll send me a text every day and go, guess what? I found a seller today. Found one today too, found one today too. And I hope that it won't just disappear and fade away and then I lost you again. So somebody said here, I got like 10 to 12 people this Sunday and we'll add them to the database, right? Probably from an open house or your organized list. Would that be safe to say that it was either from your list of people that you were calling through? Yep, SOI. That list is so fun to talk to, guys, because you can just talk. All right, so yeah, we don't want it to be easy at all. All right, so we don't really do any real play in here, just because we cut down to an hour. But on the ask for appointment, ask for a referral, and then ask for them to reciprocate the connection that you've made. And one of the things that I kind of say is, if you move the number 3 to the front part, that is connect with them first. And then you can ask about real estate and ask for a referral. Sometimes we have to really get connected with people first. Unless I'm calling like for sale by owners and things like that, it's you're calling, hey, this is Brad Korn, just calling to see if you'd like to know what the value of your home is. If I'm calling them out of left field, it's going to be a less than 1% conversion. If I went through my notebook, found addresses, phone numbers, called them, wrote a note, didn't talk about real estate, and now My second or third call down the line, I'm talking to them after they've gotten my handwritten note, and I call and say, hey, I'm just looking at a different way to calculate values with this crazy market. And you may not know what the values are, but you are looking for a way to calculate values, right? So if you're curious to know what the value of your home is, I would love to come test my formula on you. Because I've called, written the note, stayed in touch, dripped on a little bit, it wasn't about that. You're going to get a lot more people to say, you know what? Yeah, I might do that. It'd be great to see you or have a cup of coffee and do whatever. You're going to increase your odds immensely if you've done that other part first. So I always say, get the connection started first, and then we can work in the real estate stuff and actually have a better result, even if we do push it too early. Let's see if there was any notes I had on there asking how they can connect. You know, that's just another thing. After I've used the script where with buyers, you know, you're working way too hard. You're looking on websites, finding properties that are already sold, all this other stuff. You know, you're working way too hard. I can give you our instant notification program for free, and I will send you properties the minute they hit the market. I'm going to send them to you so fast. You're gonna be one of the first people to drive by them when they hit the market and go live. And then you can just text me with the address if you want more information on it. But I'll go ahead and print out a list of what's on there today, those ones that are either under contract or maybe sold. I'm just gonna drop those in the mail to you. Where would I mail those to? Oh, is that your home address? Oh, perfect. Okay, great. Now, if I see a great deal, what's the best number to call you at? Great. Is that your cell phone? Is that the best number? Do you have another number? That's the best one. Okay, great. Now, what I can also do when I set up this search, I can send you all this stuff in email as well. You check your email every day. Okay, great. Then I'll just get your email and I'll put that stuff in email. Now I've got their address, their phone number, and their email. I'm dropping a handwritten note in the mail. I'm not dropping any properties in the mail. I'm just setting up an MLS search as of today, what's available in the area that they would like to move in. This could be somebody who's not moving right now, not an active buyer or seller, but it just came out of that conversation. I was like, I'd like to live in this side of town and blah, blah, blah. It's like, great, I'm gonna set you up on a search so you can start educating yourself on what's coming on the market, what's going off the market. So that's what I mean by having a value, like a tested value of your home. I'm gonna set up your neighborhood where you live right now as a search, and I'll send you things as they're coming on the market. You'll be able to see what they're going under contract for and start familiarizing yourself with where the market's going in your neighborhood. Good stuff, guys. Am I going to get a
Yes, I
10
have a
plus?
question.
Yes, go ahead.
So let's say that you are, you have somebody in your sphere, you call them just, not talking about real estate, and you have their address. So, you send them a note and things like that. Do you put them into command and then put them in the neighborhood thing, even though you didn't talk to them about real estate yet?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yep. In fact, now that you know you're doing that, so if I process this, I'm in my notebook, I called, they answered, I have their address, right? So they're going into command. I'm crossing them out of my notebook because I've now connected with them, and I'm going to send them the information on their neighborhood. So in that conversation, though, knowing that that's what I'm going to do is put them in command on a drip plan, is I'm going to say, so do you own your house, somewhere in the conversation? Great. One of the things I do is I make sure all my friends know what their houses, what the values are doing in their neighborhood. So this is a free service. I'm just going to set it up to where you can be alerted anytime something's happening in your neighborhood. That'd be awesome, right? Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, great. And I set them up on that. Now, also that smart plan needs to be running to remind you to send them a couple other things. Maybe it's by mail, like a to-do, and then call them again in 4 weeks and call them again in 8. Call, never stop calling. But now your calls are real casual. So that particular person that you just mentioned, they're getting their searches. Next time I call is just like, so they're getting the searches. I might want to say, so are you getting those things? You see what the values are going for? Do you want to sell now? That's what we want to say. We're not there yet. We call and say, it was so great connecting with you the other week, and so glad you answered the phone. You too, it was awesome, because they're not moving, right? If between that first meeting and now I sent them the neighborhood updates, and they started talking, their husband, their spouses, and they're like going, do you see what these values are that we got sent? This is crazy. We should think about selling. When I call, hey, it was great catching up with you. I'm glad you answered the phone, blah, 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 because that's where we kind of left it. It was real neutral. They might say, hey, we've been getting that stuff you've been sending in, and we're starting to get curious about what our house might be worth. Oh, well, yeah, I could absolutely come over and just tell you, if you were to sell today, what the value of your home would look like in this market. Oh, we'd like that, actually. That'd be really cool. So already second call, I just went straight into an appointment. I found a owner or seller, you want to call it. And maybe it's a seller for a year from now, or 5 years from now. Maybe it's a seller next week. Does that make sense? So here's the fun part. Everything I just role played with you there, they'll bring up real estate when you're around more often. If you switch it to text and emails, they may just be ignoring it. There are actually texts that I get from my wife that she will walk downstairs and go, did you see my text? I'm like, been on my phone all day long. And I'll scroll down. It's like, how did I miss her text? Right? They're missing texts. They're definitely missing emails. Phone call, phone call, phone call, because that's when they'll go. They're not going to like go out of their way on an email to go, hey, I've been meaning to find out what our value of our house is. But in a conversation, they will say something. It's like, oh, well, you want me just to come over and bring the value with me? Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah. And you don't have to be, and I even like, you don't have to be selling or anything. It's like, oh, good. So that's not bugging you. Like, listen, I do real estate for a living. This is what I do. I would rather you call me to just be curious about what your value is than somebody else that might give you the wrong value. Can you see how I'm just playing that I am your go-to person? If it's anything to do with real estate, you will always call me. When you start having days like that, and you're just going around talking to your friends about real estate all day long, you get to play real estate all day long. You don't have to play salesperson. Now, I'm not saying salesperson's a bad thing. That's what you have to do when you have to get a certain amount of sales in. So does that help with your question? Did that spur any other questions? Are you guys having fun? It's kind of fun. When was training fun? This is fun, isn't it? Are you guys really having fun? Woohoo! All right. Okay, cool. So pre-qualifying. Again, same thing here. I use the yellow sheet. I just put my stuff into nice, pretty books. But I have that yeller for seller intake form where we get all the information about the house. So now if I go back to what Sheila was just talking about, and they said, we kind of want to know what the value of our house is. All of a sudden, my brain just went seller appointment. So seller is yeller. I'm looking for a yellow piece of paper. There's one sitting right there close to my desk. I grab it and I start writing their name down and everything. It's all right, well, let me get some information about your house too, so I can pull up the right numbers for your house. So that's where kind of that pre-qualification comes from. It's all on that yellow sheet. So they give you some of the questions here. Understanding their motivation. Why would you move? Why is it important? Position yourself as the expert. It's like I can pull up everything, all those other websites you're looking at. And actually, I'll give you a bonus one here. If you are going to meet with a seller at all, type in their address in Google. So just the house number and the street name. Don't get too picky with Northeast, Northwest, Boulevard, Avenue. Try to get those things out of your head when you're doing searches. There's not going to be too many 1492 Brook Streets or Brookside Streets, right? I mean, how many 1492 Brooksides are there in all of New Jersey? Not many, let alone in your MLS. So if I just get the house number and part of the street name in and I hit go in Google, and actually in Google, I put their house number and their full street name and maybe even the city. And the first page will be all of those Zillow, Trulia, all those websites that supposedly give them their value. What I do on that real quick, this takes 5 seconds. When I'm doing a listing appointment, it's just one of my steps. It's like pull up the Google. So I go to Google, I type in their address, I hit search, I right click and open in a new tab. Each link that is their actual address. I just right click the mouse and open a new tab. So it comes up to a little window that says open a new tab. So now the tabs are all right behind my Google bar. And all I'm going to do is go click on each tab and print the page that shows what Zillow thinks their house is worth, what Trulia thinks their house is worth, what Remax thinks their house is worth, whatever sites come up. Mavoto is one that'll come up all the time. There's like 5 or 6, 7 that'll come up every single time, and their values will be all over the place. So I print those first pages off of those, I staple them together, and when I go sit down with them, the first thing I say is, so I mean, I'm here tonight because you guys want to figure out what the value of your home is, right? And again, this goes back to, how do I position myself as the expert? I'm looking up at the window here, but you're looking at it on your screen. How do I position myself as the expert? I position myself as the expert by saying, well, so Zillow thinks it's 359. Trulia thinks it's 354. Realtor.com says it's 320. Remax says 289. And I just kind of stop there. I flip through the rest of them, hit 182, 587. And I say, these guys, nobody knows what your house is worth, because this is just a website used to capture your information. What we're going to look at is, what's your neighborhood activity been, and what have homes in the area been doing like yours in the last 6 months. That will tell you what the buyers are willing to pay for a property like yours. And I don't reference those things ever again. But so what I did was I just discounted those sites. Same thing with our app and with MLS searches specifically. When I save a search in MLS, I'm like, if you call Zillow and Trulia and all those other ones, there's a lot of sold properties on there. If I didn't send it to you, it's probably most likely not available. So you just text me any address that you have questions about. So now I'm capturing all their activity, and they're texting me every address that they're looking at on the other sites. And by the time I tell them, yeah, that one's already gone, that one's already gone, pretty soon they're like, well, this site's stupid. Yep, sure is. If I send it to you, it's available that day. If you don't drive by it till tomorrow, then it might not be available tomorrow. So that's how fast the market's moving. So that's what that questionnaire looks like. Pre-qualifying sellers, just again, in command. Again, this will be some extra time outside of these hours that we're doing during Ignite, whether that's on the weekend or whatever. You can go into command and they have all your presentations already created, as fancy as you want them to be or as minimal as you want them to be. So that's just where you have to go in for an hour and work on your business and go in and play with some of those presentations, print some of them out, see what you like, see what you don't like, say what you like, don't say what you don't like. And then when you go to print some out and you're doing these sample values for some of your sphere, you can ask them what information they would like to see in that packet. So, all right. So
I have another question for you about the listing
go ahead.
presentation. So do you make like a generic one that you would just bring to people, or do you specialize each one for each potential listing that you're going to have?
So I like to keep things simple, don't I? Do you know what I take for my listing presentation? I will pull up the subdivision in MLS, their subdivision over the last 6 months. I'm looking up actives, pendings, solds, right? I actually do not pull up expireds and withdrawals and canceled anymore. Now, I used to do that in the early days so you could show people what not to price their house at. But I just learned along the way, if you get them to price it right, then you don't need to show them what they don't need to price it at. Does that make sense? So I do a one-line MLS printout of their subdivision. Now, for your sake, you might want to print the short description where maybe it shows a picture and a short description of the house and some details. I might print that second where I'll select them all and print we call it the customer short copy. I'm not sure what's all in your MLS, something like that. And there's another one in there. Write this down, guys, for being here today. This is your big bonus. If you have something that shows the statistics, where you can select all those properties in their neighborhood, and there's a stat tab somewhere that will show you what the average sale price is and the average days on market for those houses in that neighborhood. That's awesome. Now, an average for a neighborhood that has a lot of different types of houses in it, if you got 200,000 in one side and 2 million in the next side, that's not going to help you a whole lot because it's going to average some weird numbers. So you have to just use that with caution But in most cases, most of the houses in the neighborhood were built about the same time. They're all around the same price. So it's really showing you a real true average if there's been 10 sales or more in that neighborhood. The next thing I'll do is I'll go back arrow to my MLS, back into my search, and I'll put in their floor plan, the bedrooms, and age range, like maybe 5 or 10 years around their floor plan and bedrooms are my 3 core things for the MLS area. So now I'm going outside of the subdivision. See, the subdivision was everything. I didn't care what floor plan, bedrooms, baths. I do not get that detail. I'm looking for an average, not a specific. Does that make sense? I'm not doing a appraisal CMA where I'm going to find 3 most similar properties in the neighborhood and average those 3. I'm looking at everything. So I know what the average is. Now I know the average house in their neighborhood is 450, for example, right? So now I go back to the MLS area and I pull up 4 bedrooms, 2 stories that are 10 to 30 years old. And theirs is 20 years old. Now I'm going to pull that up for the MLS area in the last 6 months. And I'm going to get a printout of probably more than 10. But if I go to the stat high low, I can see what the average 4-bedroom, 2-story, 10 to 30 years old is selling for. And those 2 numbers will almost always be in a pretty close range. So now I know when I get to the house, if I'm in an average house, it's going to be between this range for the neighborhood and their house in the area. That's how I do a CMA, and it takes me less than 10 minutes to put one together. Now, if I went into Command and I wanted to make it fancy, I might find some pages that I could dump that content into and do all that stuff to make it fancier. But I come with, I've got this stuff so ingrained in me that I am already the specialist when I get there. Another benefit, working that notebook list, you're already going to be the specialist. So you do not need to spend an hour putting a fancy presentation together for somebody who already knows you know real estate and has been in touch with you for years. And they see you selling, they know you're selling. You don't need to impress anybody anymore. So that's going to be like your FSBOs and your expires that you might pull that up for. So you might need that now up front and feel like you need something. But if it takes you more than an hour to put it together, it's not systematized. So that's why I say take an hour or 2 and go through and find something you like, find a way to save those templates so you could just dump your information in quickly. Oh, let me get to the survey before you guys go. Hopefully you're still here so we can get our survey in there. Let's see. There we go. I'll put it in the chat box so you can grab it, click it, and get that tab open up. That would be awesome. All right, and as usual, these are recorded. So if you can all click on that Survey Monkey tab and fill that in for today's session, that would be awesome. And yep, it will have these recorded if you need to reference them again. Woohoo! All right, thank you so much, Sheila. Appreciate you. And all of you for coming too. She had responded that she was going to make sure she did the survey. All right, guys, I'm going to tune you out. Grab that link. Hope you had fun.